Welcome to For the Common Good with Juanita, a show where we inform, inspire, and empower our businesses, communities, and people just like you. And I am your host, Juanita Farrow. Can you imagine transforming your life from mundane to magnificent? Well, we have just the guest today that's going to help us do that. I am excited about the show because we have Charles Gates on the show today. Charles is an entrepreneur, a coach, a trainer, an MC, a transformational speaker, and president of Local Legislature, LLC, and host of Local Legislative Live at 11. A live stream weekday program where local politicians, candidates, businesses, and nonprofit leaders are interviewed in a nonpartisan, casual environment. Imagine that. For the purpose of educating the public. He's been featured in numerous magazines and papers and a guest on a number of radio and TV shows. Help me welcome to the show, Charles Gates.
Welcome
to the show, Charles.
Thank you so much.
It's
glad to be here.
Great to have you on the show today. Today, we're talking about living your best life, the top hat philosophy. And I think that might have something to do with the hat you're wearing. So right off the bat, tell us about the top hat philosophy. And what do you say about that?
The top hats philosophy is something that I came up with. I've worked or been around many circles in which the leaders, and I use that term loosely, I like to call them title holders because you're not really a leader until you earn the title.
True.
But I realized at an early age that many of the people that I work for or that I saw in the nonprofit world, many of the coaches that coached me, were not really leaders because there were certain characteristics that they just did not have. But then I looked at some of the other leaders that came into my life who had that. They had that stuff. They had those characteristics that I thought every leader should really have. And I'm a military guy too, so I took it there as well. And I put all of these ingredients into a pot, stirred it around, boiled it up, and came out with this top hat philosophy. I said to myself, you know what? How can I talk about this philosophy and make people understand it? I've always been a big Fred Astaire and Cab Calloway fan. I like to shake it up a little bit. And I've always been intrigued by how smooth these guys were, not only on their feet, but in their wear, especially the headwear. Whenever I saw Cab Calloway or Fred Astaire, one of these guys, wear this top hat, I always thought, that is too cool. And I always said to myself, I want to wear one of those, but if I do, I'm going to gotta stand out and look ridiculous. But I said, you know what? How can I incorporate leadership and still think about the hat wearing? And I said, you know what? People remember acronyms. Top hat. TOPHAT. Now you ask me, what is Top Hat? Top Hat is simply a leadership acronym that I think every leader, a real leader, should have. And very simply, they're like this. The top hat stands for transparent. As a leader, if we're not transparent, we're useless. Because people need to know what's going on when you know it. Now, I know not all the times is that the case, but in most cases, when you find out something that's going to affect the lives of your employees or your staff, they need to know about it. So be transparent. The O stands for open-minded. Think about how many times has a new graduate, for example, new graduate comes into an accounting department. She's really good at what she sees. She's been there for 2 weeks, and then she says, you know what? There are faults here. There are some ways that we can change the dynamics of this country, of this company, and save money and save the bottom line. But yet, management sometimes says, well, you're new. You're new here, you don't know enough, so we're not going to take your word into account. But in fact, if they were able to walk into a manager's office who was transparent with them and open-minded, that person may say, well, you know what, young lady, what do you have? And how could you help us save money? But if you're not open-minded enough, that person would never get a chance to ultimately help the company save money and perhaps boost the morale within the corporation.
Interesting.
Now you say TOP. The P stands for positive. We all have bad days. I get it. I have bad days. Juanita, you have bad days. No one has a good day every day. But when we wake up in the morning and, for example, if we don't have a good day that morning, we're just mad. We drink our coffee, clunk, clunk, clunk. We eat our food with an attitude. But when we get in the car, we get caught in traffic and perhaps someone hits us in the fender. But, but when we get into the office, they don't need to know all of that. Your employees don't need to know that you're pissed off or had a bad day. So come in that office with a positive attitude every day. So when you walk in, and it doesn't mean that you're walking in like Bugs Bunny. Hello, everyone, skip-dee-doo-dah. What a wonderful day it is. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But simply having that attitude where people can look to you and say, wow, you know what? I want to be just like them when I grow up. And then the H stands for humble. We know that there are things that go on, that you are the cream of the crop and you're all it and everything else. And you may be that person.
Yeah.
But we don't need to know all of that.
Humility.
We don't. Well, did you see about what I did yesterday? I was on a TV show. I was on the interview, and did you see what I did?
And we all know them, right? Those people.
we all know these people. So be humble. I mean, take what you get and be humble about it. Eat that humble pie and continue to move forward, because what you will do ultimately, you will inspire your people to say, you know what? I want to be just like that too.
Right.
And the A is for approachable. You have to be approachable if you're a real leader. And this is what I like to share with military lieutenants, the O1s and O2s. Because as an O1 or O2, just getting into the military, and for those of you who don't know what that is, that's typically a lieutenant or something along those lines, where they're just coming in from OCS or officer training school, and they come in there and they're working with their teams. But when they come in there, many of them think immediately, because of my rank, I am to be respected. Not quite. You got to earn that respect. And you earn that respect, number one, by being approachable. Your people need to be able to come to you and say, listen, this is on my mind. Can you help me? I'm having a bad day. My dog just died. Life is just kicking me in the pants, and I need some help. If you're not that type of person, to me, you're not a real leader. You're simply a title holder. And the last T is for trustworthy. If you're not trustworthy, you have nothing. You have nothing. You are, in essence, simply a title holder with no substance. Going back to the military, I'm a brand new lieutenant coming into my ship or coming into my unit, and my people don't trust me. They will do what you ask them to do simply because of your rank, but they will do nothing else for you. And once that clock turns 5 in the corporate world and it is time to go, I'm not sticking around. I'm out because I don't trust you, I don't like you, and I'm gone. So that, in a nutshell, is the top hat philosophy. And because I wear this hat, top of mind, top of whatever it is. I forgot my words.
And it's something we all need. This top hat philosophy is something that we can all apply to our lives if we're in leadership, especially.
Exactly.
That is awesome.
Exactly.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to For the Common Good with your host, Juanita Farrow. And we have with us today Charles Gates. And we're talking about living your best life now, the top hat philosophy. You don't want to miss this. Now, Charles, what are the 3 biggest challenges that nonprofits and for-profit companies face? And how can their leaders discover a new you?
Top 3 challenges. In my opinion, number 1 challenge they have, not talking about the big nonprofits, not the American Cancer Society and the American Diabetes Association, but in every neighborhood, there are nonprofits that are doing great work.
Right.
But very few people know about them. unless you live next door to the building or you happen to be a beneficiary of their services, chances are you have no idea they even exist, even though they are right down the street and have been down there for 25 to 30 years. So I think one of the main problems they have is a lack of exposure for a variety of reasons. And one of those reasons is the board of directors and many of the local nonprofit organizations are not well-functioning boards.
Starts at the top, right?
I said that.
Starts at the top.
It starts at the top. Typically, the owner, the founder, the ED, the executive director, they're pretty good at what they do. They understand the intricacies that are involved in nonprofit, but the board selection, in many cases, is questionable. They don't understand fundraising. And this is the key. Every person on that board should have a skill set that brings something to the board. Whether it's at the federal level, the state level, the local level, or in your own backyard. There has to be specific functions that everyone brings to the table. For example, fundraising. If you don't have a person who is very savvy in fundraising, chances are you are going to struggle. And I will just put a plug out there that I personally went through a board governance program in Southampton Roads, Virginia, through the United Way. Why all the United Ways don't do that is beyond me, but it's an award-winning program called Project Inclusion. And the purpose of that organization or that entity is to teach board governance. Because I've been a member of boards, and I realized that over the years there was something missing. And I could never put my finger on until I went to this program that taught me to say, I knew that wasn't right. Now I know. And now I know how to fix it. So now I go into the board and I say, that's not right. It should be done this way. Very seldom do I use the word should or would or need, but just to bring it out to let people know that this is what needs to happen to make it an effective functioning board. And number 3 is the fact that we just don't, the exposure, the lack of direction from the board. And number 3 is from a nonprofit standpoint, I think it goes right back to the exposure piece. I don't think they really understand. When I say they, I know I'm putting them all in a box, but many nonprofits don't understand the community in which they serve. I mean, they just don't. I'll give you an example. There's and I'm not going to mention the name, but there's a nonprofit in the Southampton Roads area that more or less services impoverished kids in neighborhoods. Right. But on the board, not one of them have ever experienced poverty personally. Never. How can they relate to those in which they serve? It's just like a police department. Let's say you come from Utah and you move into New York City in Bedford-Stuyvesant. And if you know anything about Bedford-Stuyvesant, it's some of that area is pretty rough. You come from Utah and you come with this skip-diddy-doo type attitude. And I'm not bashing Utah. I'm not bashing that. But my point is, if you've never been involved in that type of situation, you will have a very difficult time relating to the people in the community in which you serve, which goes back to training. Now, the last question you asked was, how can you change that? It's all about the training. If you're in a nonprofit space or if you're in a corporate world, training is everything, but the training has to be done right. There's too many times, and I've seen it because I'm a trainer myself, there's too many times trainers do not know how to relate or get to the adult learners that they're teaching. And if it's not adult learning, the high school kids or the college kids or even the elementary school kids, you've got to know your audience and you've got to bring your training down to their levels to make them work with you to really understand what you're doing. And once you understand that, you put it in action. And the main things for any of these training regiments, if you will, is like Craig Valentine says in Toastmasters, you've got to think tall. You got to make them think, you got to make them act, you got to make them laugh, and you got to make them learn. And if you're not doing those 4 aspects as a trainer, you are ineffective.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with that. Now, you're talking about organizations, but as individuals, how can individuals discover a new you? What is it that they need to be doing?
Look in the mirror.
Just look in the mirror.
That's number one. Look in the mirror and do a self-assessment of yourself. I think too many times we want to be other people. Oh, I love this person. I want to be that person. I have people that I admire too, and I'm sure you do. But we don't want to be like them. We don't even want to be a clone of these people. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, you know what? What am I strong at? What are my strong suits, or what are my weaknesses? These are the interview questions that you go on for a job, for example.
Right.
What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Identify your weaknesses, but know your weaknesses, but find out what makes you happy. If I would have mentioned something to you, Juanita, let's say whatever it is.
Right.
There's something that I could say that'll just make you go, ooh, yes, you just lit up my world. Once you find that into your audience, if you find that thing that just makes you go, ooh, you say to yourself, that's where I need to put my focus on. And sometimes I think that we as adults will derail sometimes for our younger people who are finding that thing that makes them happy. We sometimes will derail it. Well, you're not talented enough, or you don't look good enough, or you don't have the skill
We're
set.
listening to all of what people are saying on the outside,
Right, it's
and
too
not
much.
becoming our authentic selves.
Right. So I think number one, we need to look at ourselves in the mirror,
Right.
find out
I
what
like
makes
that.
us really tick, and then find mentors and coaches and people that can help you build on that to take that, whatever it is, to the next level.
Start by looking in the mirror and asking yourself the hard questions. But it's almost like deprogramming yourself, because others have told us who we are and what we are.
Right.
They help define you instead of you really understanding who you are deep inside. And like you said, you'll know when that happens. It'll resonate from within.
Yeah,
I love that.
I will tell you. And very quickly, can I share this with you?
Sure, please.
I had blood drawn the other day. American Red Cross, I had an appointment, and when I went to the young ladies, we would talk about investing. And I'm not just going to sit there and have blood drawn without saying anything. So I sparked up a conversation with all of the ladies there. There was no guys, it was all ladies, and we were talking about they were talking about investing. What makes you happy? I said, well, what should I invest in? What makes you happy? I said, what do you like? She says, animals. That's where you go. Focus your energy on animals, those sectors, those companies that focus on animal rights and whatever it is that makes you happy. Now you've got a place to start. And it's no different than a person trying to take a self-assessment of themselves. You got to start with yourself first. Get that assessment and take it to the next level. Find people that can help you take your game to the next level.
And that is a good note to end this segment on. We will be right back. Welcome back to For the Common Good with your host, Juanita Farrow. And I've been talking to Mr. Charles Gates here, and we've been talking about living your best life now, the top hat philosophy. And now I understand, Charles, you are going to show us exactly how that's done. I can't wait to see this.
Well, you know what, Juanita? I'm also a presentation coach, and I believe that we can sit here, we can talk about it in a sitting position, but I think it's more expressive if we get up and we show people what we're talking about. You can see the hat here, and when you look at the hat, you're immediately thinking, I'm hoping, top hat philosophy, because that's what it's all about. But the top hat, again, it's about being transparent. It's about letting people know what's going on when it happens, not when you think people should know. We're Americans. We're not going to panic. We're adults. We're not going to panic. Let us know as soon as you find out what's going on. The O, be open-minded. Don't take it for granted that you're a know-it-all, because none of us out here know everything about everything. No one. Whether you're the founder of the company or you're brand new with the cubicle, no one knows anything about everything. And then the P, positive. Have an open mind. Be positive about it. Your day may have sucked up to this point. You may have had a terrible day and things just have not gone right for you. But when you walk into that space where they're looking up to you as a leader, we have to project that positive attitude. We could be here saying in the back of our minds, you know what? I'm really mad that my wife is mad at me. I'm really mad that person hit my bumper this morning. But you know what? It's okay. because my people don't need to know about that. They don't need to know about all the bad times I've had today, this week, and last month. They don't need to know about it. So I'm going to come in my office and I'm going to have that attitude. My shoulders are going to be back. My chest is going to be out. My stomach's going to be in, and my head is going to be up and proud. And we're going to let the people know that when you walk in the office, good morning, Juanita. How are you? And that's how we're going to approach the positivity piece. But we're also going to be humble. I know I'm all that in a bag of chips, you may be saying to yourself, but we don't need to know that. We don't need to know that. So be humble. Take a moment to put in that oven that humble pie and eat some every morning before you go into whatever you do for a living. Eat that humble pie and live it. And then be approachable. People don't, and look, your body language tells whether or not you are approachable or not. Let me tell you what's not approachable. When you present anywhere to your employees or your military people, whatever the case may be, and you're like this, you are telling people to stay away from me. Stay out of my space. So have an open body posture every day, every moment, so that people can look at you and say, you know what? I think this person is approachable. I'm going to approach them and talk about my issues because they give the body impression and the positive attitude that they are willing to listen, to understand, as opposed to listening to respond, like a lot of people do. And then lastly, you've got to be trustworthy. If you're not trustworthy, why should we trust you? We all know people that are not trustworthy. They just talk and talk and talk and talk with nothing coming out of substance. So we've got to make sure that we are trustworthy, not only in what we say, but through our actions. And if we're not doing those things, we're not really a leader. And if you're looking at this program now and you're not doing those things, you're not checking off that TOPHAT, we need to talk. Because you are a title holder and not a real leader.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that demonstration. And there's no better way to remember something than to demonstrate it. And you sure did that. And I'm sure the viewers are never going to forget Top Hat. How can you? Now, you have an organization, local legislature. Talk about that organization and your founding that organization. Why did you start the company?
Well, you know what? It wasn't me. A person heard me doing a presentation about opportunities. And they approached me, came up with the business concept, and told me that their philosophy was, the gentleman's name is David Edmondson. He's a friend of mine. And he came up to me and said, you know what, there's so much emphasis on federal and state elections, but what about local? What does the Commissioner of the Revenue do? What does the treasurer do? If we went outside of this studio, anywhere in America, and we asked 100 people, what is the Commissioner of the Revenue? What's the difference between the Commissioner of Revenue and the treasurer? In the town that you live in, which you elect, chances are you wouldn't be able to tell them. Unless you're a business owner in a nonprofit world, chances are you wouldn't know the difference. So what we do is we level the playing field for not only the incumbents, but every candidate working for, seeking a local office. Local meaning city council, town council, board of supervisors, all those platforms. Give them an opportunity. And right now, we're just in the Hampton Roads and Richmond, Virginia areas, but giving them an opportunity to be interviewed in a casual setting, sitting back, drinking coffee, and letting the people know what your platform is so they can be better informed as an electorate to know who these people are and what do they do. What do they do? Most people don't know, but yet we elect these people, and that is a problem. And our mission for that is to be the premier source of local election information in Virginia and an advocate for the sustainability of local business nationwide. Now, why the sustainability of business? Because we know as entrepreneurs that the average business does not last 5 years. They go under for a variety of reasons. We want to give them an opportunity to come on our show and share who they are. We're not looking for the Coca-Colas of the world. We're looking for the small mom and pop stores or businesses that are in our community along with the nonprofits to say, listen, this is who we are and this is what we offer. Come either support us or at least know what we do and send other people our way. So if you are one of those people, we're looking for you.
So it's bringing the community together, both local legislatures and also the businesses in that community. What a great way to do that.
Well, thank you. And you know what, Juanita? We look at it this way. If you were, let's say you had a hard day at work and you come home and there's a pothole in front of your house big enough for a bus to fit in. You're not calling the White House. You're not calling the governor's mansion. You're calling the city hall. Hey, fix this doggone hole. it behooves us to know, number one, who the people are that you're calling, and number two, what do they do? What can they do in this instant? And we've tried to bring a platform to the average people out there to let them know that there is something that you can do right now, and that is to get informed so that you know.
Stay informed.
Stay informed.
What a great note to end on. Thank you, Charles, for joining For the Common Good. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
A wealth of knowledge, living your best life, and communicating and bringing together communities through informing communities. You've been listening to For the Common Good, and I'm your host, Juanita. See you next time.